Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Writing in the Tiny House. I am your host, Devin Davis, and the whole point of Writing in the Tiny House is to tackle the idea of the tormented artist, to give you the tools that you need in order to free within you your own creative content so that you don't have to spend days after days torturing yourself, or even weeks or years if you are writing a novel, torturing yourself so that you can get your content out of your brain, out of your soul, out of your spirit, and down onto your pages and share what you have with the world. We are third Wednesday in June at least, I think. And I have done a few episodes already this month. One of the biggest episodes was my special on Pride. It aired as a bonus episode, if you remember that. I promised a couple more bonus episodes like that, but it's not going to come as bonus episodes. It's just going to be a mainstream episode, and that is what this episode is all about. That's what this one is for. This is likely, I don't know, I'm not going to say anything like this, but this is all that I have planned for the remainder of Pride. However, we are June 15th, and there is another few weeks of this month left, and never say never, right? It is entirely possible that another thing will be coming your way in regards to Pride, just because it is so near and dear to me. So today, you might have noticed the title of this episode is Big Gay Magic. This episode is to highlight the magic and the positive change that came about for me as I celebrated my first Pride. And then I have a very special guest named Michael Allen, who will share some thoughts on what coming out did for him. The whole point of this is not to convince the whole world to be gay. It is simply to highlight and to show that stepping out of the closet, for my sake, and for Michael's sake, and for many other people that I know, resulted in positive change. And so I will wrap all of this up and apply it to the creative mind at the end of this podcast, but having the courage to bring about positive change and then to see that happen as a person steps into the unknown is what this entire podcast is all about. So if you remember, on June 5th, 2022 was my very first ever Pride experience. I was able to march in my very first Pride. Oh my goodness, friends. Today is June 5th, and I just celebrated my very first ever Pride celebration. The celebration was in Salt Lake City, and it was the whole weekend, but because I am a busy person and whatever, the day that I got to celebrate was on Sunday, and I marched in the Pride Parade, my very first Pride celebration, and I got to be in the Pride Parade with my swim team. Just this beautiful team of mostly men and some women marching together, waving all of the Pride flags. The swim team that I marched with is called QAC, the Queer Utah Aquatics Club. It is a competitive swim team that I am a part of, and I swim with them twice a week. And it is the most normal swim team that you ever did see, with one exception, and that is everybody on the team is gay. And so it's this group of men and women all coming together during the Pride March, during the Pride Parade. And because QAC has been around for a long time, and because it is all about Pride and all about LGBTQ rights, they march every year in the Pride Parade. It is just a group that usually ends up being about 30 people. And because I am a part of that swim team, I got to march with them. I cannot believe the support and the turnout from all of the different groups of people that came out to support the parade. And I got to march with my boy. I got to march with my oldest son. And what a beautiful celebration. That little clip was recorded the very same day as the Pride Festival. It was recorded on my way home from all of the festivities that happened downtown. But what I failed to realize was how much the march itself, not just the festivities, not just the booths, not just the food, not just the fun things where we get our face painted and the different things like that, but the march itself stayed with me. And I never could have imagined in a million years how much it affected me. So it's been a few days since Pride. It is now the Thursday following Pride. And while I'm recording this, I'm actually sitting in a parking lot near a park. But I need to say kind of the aftermath of Pride with me. And it's been an emotional day. I said in my previous little installment of these thoughts that the biggest thing about Pride was the parade. So with the parade, there was a certain knowing that happened during the parade, or at least started building while we were all getting shuttled into our positions for the parade, for the Pride March. Just that instant of realizing that what you are doing and what you are about to do is going to be super formative for the rest of your life. And so I was in this small group of good men and women who all belong to the LGBTQ community. And my son was there with me. And I got to see kind of the core memories, like inside out stuff, start to form for him, just because I knew that specific biases against homosexuality and against living life differently won't be a part of his upbringing. Having the courage to come out brought in so much change already, and I have only been out for 6 months. It has brought an entirely new thought process, and I have seen things in this world, in this expansive worldview that I did not know of or was aware of before I came out, and it is something that I can pass on to my children. Now, I told you that my friend Michael Allen sent in some things to include into the show, and he shows how coming out freed up so many things for him so that he could refocus his energies and his life to be simply a better person. Michael Allen is a divisional merchandising manager in Amazon Fashion. I don't know how long he's been working there, but he is very successful at his job. Michael is also a gay dad like me. He said that coming out was not this big night and day change. It did not inspire him to create something big or tangible or really easily quantifiable thing like writing a book. That wasn't a thing that happened to him, but he noticed that gradually some big changes happened.
With time, what I noticed as I came out is that I had been spending vast amounts of energy on keeping myself in the closet and for the different modalities I would live in. So the faces that I presented, the personalities that I created to keep myself safe in other realms, whether that was at home with the family, in my marriage, at church, with my employer, the amount of thought and intention that I was pouring into keeping myself hidden and protected so that I could neither be discovered or that I could hide from myself the truth of my sexuality, it was just staggering.
Michael found himself in a lifestyle where he did not fit. He found things in his life that were not working for him, and things that were preventing him from being creative and being productive. And he noticed all of that change when he first made the steps toward something better.
When I didn't have to spend all of that energy in hiding, I was staggered by how much more I had available to dedicate to other things, being better in relationships. It overhauled how I show up in my career. Whereas I felt I had issues with work ethic and I would get drained and I felt unengaged in my work. It's part of what allowed me to come to Amazon after my coming out was I had so much additional energy that I was anxious to use and available to use. And so my time at Amazon, I have been able to reflect often that even my authenticity of being able to be open in my workplace there has lent itself to me being a better employee and working the way that I want to and working out without limits and without exhaustion the way that I used to. It allowed me to show up, I think in the same vein, with having more energy, I felt that I showed up as an even better parent because there was nothing I was trying to hide from my daughter either. And so I could just focus on being a good parent with her. And it didn't matter how flamboyant or queer it was because I was just being a good dad.
So this is where all of this applies, my friends. I promise that this is a more universal podcast than perhaps the previous special was. And yes, it is themed in pride. It is themed in coming out. But all of us find ourselves in a situation that we don't like. There is something that we are in control of that we can either change or step away from or be rid of that is keeping us constrained, whether we are in a lifestyle that doesn't work for our energy, or even if it's something smaller where we feel that we need to perhaps ask our partner to free up an additional 2 hours a week or something so that we can spend focusing that time on creating something. There is a situation that we are in that if we were to step out of that situation, our creativity would be unleashed too. I was recently reading the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, and it is from that book that I totally ripped off the title of this podcast. But she said with her writing, so she is the author of the bestseller Eat, Pray, Love. And so she has noticed an astounding amount of success with her writing, but she has noticed that she cannot write a drama if she is living in a drama. It is really challenging for creativity to be expressed if the vessel of that creativity is experiencing restraint and discomfort. If you find that your life is in a cage to any degree, if you take those steps toward changing that situation, then your creativity can flow even better. A lot of this has to do with freedom. When a person comes out, they are proclaiming their freedom. And if you, even if it's on a much smaller scale, like asking you and your partner to find a way to free up free time in the week so that you can write or that you can paint, it gives you more freedom. Whenever you are creating, you are introducing something into the world that does not exist yet. And that automatically changes how the world is, not just for you, but for everybody who interacts with what that is. So let me hurry and just share a thought that I posted on my Instagram pretty recently. It says this: following another life path would ruin me, they said. It wasn't the way to be happy, they said. Deciding to find another way to live my life was terrifying because I couldn't see beyond the thicket. To risk my safety, my friendships, and much more was reckless. But now that I passed into a different place in this mountain of life, the first thing I see is just how vast the mountain is. With a million different paths to follow, many of which lead to happy places. And the second thing I see is the sameness. The sun still shines here. There are flowers, grass, trees, along with dangerous slopes and challenging climbs. But there is one huge difference, the one that matters far more than flowers, sunlight, or even the path itself. It is here, standing in this new place, that I can finally breathe. So my friends, my challenge to you, find the thing in your life, big or small, that is not working, and take the steps to change that thing so that you can release your creativity and bring more positive change into this world. Again, a big thank you to Michael Allen for sharing his thoughts on what coming out and taking that step and changing his lifestyle brought about for him. His social media stuff is in the show notes, and I am so grateful for him being willing to share his thoughts with me and with all of you today. Again, this is a wonderful episode on the beauty of pride. So thank you so much, guys, and be sure to tune in next week on a new episode of Writing in the Tiny House.